Welcome to ET Edge Insights exclusive interviews. In this exclusive interview series, we speak to thought leaders, industry experts who share useful insights on thought leadership, industry practices, and latest trends in the world of business. Today, we are going to have a conversation with Mr. Udaya Kumar Hebbar. He is the Managing Director of Credit Access Grameen. Udaya Kumar Hebbar is going to speak about the role of microfinance in the financial inclusion realm. Mr. Hebbar, thank you very much for speaking to ET Edge Insights.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you. Let me begin by asking you, the microfinance growth story has been a fantastic story in India. Now, with regards to the strategies in the financial sector, the microfinance institutions have taken, what are those that has benefited it to be in this pedestal?
Yeah, I think the story is good. Story has been there for last 2.5 decades, and it's growing well. After in the last 1 decade, I think regulator has done a lot of support in terms of having a right regulation for microfinance. If you look at this, a very unique in the world actually.
Right.
So that the conducive regulatory environment. Then they created a something facility called PSL funding from the bank, priority sector lending. By lending to microfinance institution, actually it considered as priority lending. Then regulator and MFIN together and the bank to enable the bureau. Today in this country, the bottom of pyramid woman borrowing 10,000 rupees also goes into credit bureau. That means we are able to create credit history for 60 to 70 million population in this country, women in this country, which was able to do. Then again the institutions being developed, they've grown, they're able to service better at the low cost, innovate the different products for them, for their life cycle needs. So beyond finance and the non-finance, there are too many things the systems are taken care, plus the regulatory support what they give, and then the government support. Government time and again, when there's a crisis, there's a support from regulator. When there's a demonetization, there is some support on a derecognition point of view. There's a COVID, there's some support from government, regulator, liquidity. So I think it's a very conducive environment. I have not seen in any other part of the world such a strong surrounding system. Top of that, there is an SRO, self-regulatory body, which is very unique.
Yes.
There is no other industry there is self-regulatory body in India, but for microfinance. Correct? So all these are making microfinance is very, very good in this country. Therefore, it reflects the growth, reflect the length and breadth is spread, particularly rural. So I think that summarizes the reason for how this grown in this country.
Right. And you've just talked about the rural sector. Now, we know microfinance is often termed as the vaccine for anti-poverty in rural sector. So in terms of penetration of your organization in rural sector, can you elaborate something on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Whoever said that, he said right actually. So, if you look at India, the GDP which comes from rural is close to 50%, 45 to 50%, whereas the supply of credit is just about 10-12%. So there is a huge credit gap for rural in India, which need to be filled. That is why the credit is vaccine. I don't say microcredit only.
Yes.
The credit to rural is a vaccine to grow. Of course, microfinance, one segment we address, but there is more segments which yet to be addressed. We call that missing middle.
Right.
Between microfinance to somebody formal banking, in between somebody wants 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs, neither microfinance gives nor the formal sector gives. There's a missing middle. Therefore, credit is lacking in the rural India still. Why? Of course, regulators, government, everybody putting their efforts. I think the more and more credit supply to the rural will enable the GDP much higher than what it is today.
Right.
So therefore, our dream of 5 trillion or 8 trillion economy, I think the rural credit is going to be one of the big support if we can enable by everybody. Now, microfinance on its own contributing for this.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Now, everyone or every industry is getting into sustainability and environmental practices. So, how do you think microfinance institutions can contribute towards sustainability and environmental friendly practices?
This is quite interesting, particularly, this climate change or sustainability or, all this theory of the repeated El Nino or all these things, result of the climate change. So that our customers, microfinance customers, are in a very paradoxical situation. They are not the reason for this, but they don't not even know what exactly this, but they are going to be impacted by this. Correct? Somebody else's problem, but the result is this because they are the vulnerable communities in this geography. It is not only in India, this Southeast Asia, East Asia. Some of the higher the developing nations, the higher the vulnerability because of this climate change. Fortunately, the credit what you provide is one sustainability for them to manage their cash flow, good times and bad times. So microfinance on its own way gives some resiliency for them. Plus the credit what you're providing is for community, rural, women. By default it comes under social sector, social segment. Your employment generation happens within that segment, whether it is directly or indirectly we contribute that. Also we keep giving some awareness to them about the potential climate change, what steps they need to take to manage the changed weather pattern, change the rain pattern. So we need to address that. But now the providing the credit supply mitigates a lot of their issues. Top of that, we also support the home improvements, support during the floods or cyclones, rehabilitations, the CSR activities, food supply, all of us jumps into it to support. Top of that, as an industry, what we did is we did a beautiful product for against the cyclone impact or a weather change. It's called NatCat insurance. With the help of MFIN and the ADB together, worked and created a proof of concept which prevents or protect the income of the community during that period up to 3 months or some based on the weather pattern. It's a kind of parametrical insurance. So kind of weather, a degree of weather change can claim or can claim the insurance, or the flood intensity can be a trigger, or water intensity can be a trigger. It's basically parametrical insurance. This should help actually once we did the pilot. Now probably we'll start expanding it. This will help to manage them. So overall, industry is actually working on many of these SDGs. If you look at MFIN's latest report or annual report, captures many of the SDGs which we are working and supporting as a part of our work. It's very important for us.
Very interesting. Now with the evolving technologies, change is literally accelerating.
Correct.
So during these fast innovation period, how do you ensure that your delivery mechanism is up to date or it's up there with the latest technologies?
Yeah, I think this is very, very important. But there is a big difference between India and Bharat.
Right.
So what is happening in India need not happening in Bharat. So we are working in Bharat. Right? So what's happening is there is a gap of ecosystem, infrastructure, smartphone, network, banking facilities, outlets. It says a vast difference between urban and the rural. So and then again between the rich and the poor, and the young and the middle-aged, women and men. Right. Correct. So we are sitting in the rural, middle-aged women, poor. So this whole ecosystem and infrastructure, probably they get the last. Correct. It takes some time. Yeah. So, but microfinance as an industry is equipped already. They actually did two sets of. One is high tech in terms of their own processes, data processes, transaction processes, your data quality, the speed of transaction, efficiency of transaction. They've invested a lot. Similarly, for customers, there's a facilitation. We need to facilitate. There is a lack of literacy, then lack of financial literacy, then lack of digital literacy. All these are challenges there. Correct. We need to enable them. Therefore, we need to assist them to move into this flow. Correct? Move into this flow. So as and when they are enabled fully, So it takes some time. So we keep supporting them. So all said and done, this is unsecured business.
Right.
There is no guarantee, there is no security. So high touch and high connect is the key for running microfinance well. So therefore, microfinance will remain a high tech and high touch.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so high touch will continue to remain.
Right.
So, but in the meantime, the more and more adopting by the customer will improve the efficiency also.
Right.
Also, simultaneously, it will give enough additional time to enhance the relationship.
Correct.
Correct. The transaction, if goes faster, the loan officer have more time to build relations.
Absolutely.
So eventually, it facilitates.
Right.
So I think it's just a good growth, good journey. So our sense, in another couple of years, there will be a very good percentage of change in the delivery charge. And in the meantime, customer segment also changing. For example, a new to customer may still undergo through a JLG mechanism so that they establish the credit worthiness, first time borrowing, credit report gets generated. After 1 or 2 cycle, probably they may be able to get individual loans on their own without a social collateral support. So I think journey will change over a period of time. They start with the group, JLG, then goes to a kind of individual loan, and then go to bank.
Right.
So that journey will start. So our sense, the high touch will remain, high tech will remain, and then this journey of moving from group and individual and then bankability, that also will start.
It's very well put forward. Adopting this process as well as making the awareness
Correct.
and putting the customer in front. That's
Correct.
It's a very good thought. One last question, Mr. Hebbar. What does leadership mean to you?
It's interesting, Leadership is, it's a very difficult question. A lot of difference between the empowerment and non-empowerment, leadership and non-leadership. Leadership is to be sensitive for your management, for your customers, for your employees, and for your ecosystem.
Right.
So for me, the leadership, for example, you are the trustee of the stakeholders who invested with you, who lent to you, correct? Then you also as the gatekeeper for the regulator.
Right.
You need to be the guardian for your employees.
Right.
Correct? So
Right.
this all forms a kind of ownership of everything,
Right.
but making us as a part of the trustee for everybody.
Right.
So that makes a perfect leadership if possible to do. And for your team, you need to empower them in such a way that they are able to do their job well on their own, and even if they fail, I should be able to give my neck for their failure.
Right.
So for me, leadership is that.
Very well put forward. Taking the responsibility and owning
Correct.
it up.
Correct.
That's the way to look forward.
Correct.
On that note, Mr. Hebbar, thank you very much for your precious time. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you
and
so
wish you
much.
all the best.
Thank you so much, and pleasure meeting you, talking to you.
Thank you.
All the best.